Did you know the average US airport processes over 100,000 passengers daily? Yet many of these travelers make simple mistakes that turn their journey into a headache. Want to know what these mistakes are and how to avoid them? Today, I'll show you exactly what not to do at US airports to save your time, money, and sanity. Number 1. Timing and arrival mistakes. Let's start with the most crucial part of your airport journey: timing and arrival. Just last month at LAX, I learned this lesson the hard way. I thought I was being smart by arriving 90 minutes early for my domestic flight, but the security line had other plans. By the time I made it through, I was rushing to my gate while trying to put my shoes back on. Not a good look. Here's what really happens when you cut it too close. You'll end up speed-walking through the terminal, forgetting to fill your water bottle, skipping bathroom breaks, and missing the chance to grab a proper meal. Even worse, if there's an unexpected delay at security or check-in, those precious minutes you thought you had can vanish instantly. Planning your arrival time isn't just about the flight departure. You need to factor in several things: traffic to the airport, which can double during peak hours, parking or drop-off time, check-in if you have bags, and of course, security lines. During holidays or peak travel seasons, these regular processes can take twice as long. Then there's the lesser-known issue of terminal navigation. Many US airports have multiple terminals connected by trains or long walkways. At airports like Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson or Chicago O'Hare, getting from one end to another can easily take 20 minutes. This brings us to another timing mistake: underestimating terminal transfer time. I recently saw a family miss their flight at Denver International because they went to the wrong terminal first. By the time they realized their mistake and made it to the correct terminal, their gate had closed. The gate agents are serious about closing times. Once that door is shut, it usually stays shut. Speaking of closing times, there's a widespread misunderstanding about flight departure times. When your ticket says the flight departs at 2 p.m., that's when the plane starts pulling away from the gate. The boarding door typically closes 10 to 15 minutes before this time, and boarding usually begins 30 to 45 minutes before departure for domestic flights. If you're finding these insights helpful, take a quick second to hit that like button and subscribe. There's plenty more valuable information coming up. Number 2. Security and documentation mistakes. Let's talk about security checkpoints, where I see the most confusion happening. Last week at Chicago O'Hare, I watched as a whole family had to step aside because they didn't prepare their liquids properly. They had to throw away brand new toiletries because they were over the size limit. The TSA's 3-1-1 rule isn't just a suggestion. It means 3 ounces or less per container, all fitting in one quart-size clear bag, and 1 bag per person. And yes, that fancy face cream that cost you $50 will get tossed if it's over the limit, no matter how much you try to explain its value. Here's something many people don't realize about security lines. There's actually a best time to get in them. Early morning lines are usually shorter because most business travelers know the drill and move quickly. Midday is when you often get stuck behind leisure travelers who might not be as familiar with the process. Documentation is another area where I see constant issues. Your boarding pass and ID should be easily accessible, not buried at the bottom of your bag. I keep mine in my jacket's inside pocket or the front pocket of my carry-on until I'm through security. Let's address the electronics situation. Laptops need their own bin, unless you have TSA-approved laptop bags. And no, putting your phone, keys, and wallet in the same bin as your laptop isn't doing anyone any favors. The metal items can scratch your screen, and they'll likely ask you to separate them anyway. About those shoes, pick your footwear wisely. I learned this lesson at JFK when I wore my favorite lace-up boots. I held up the entire line trying to untie them, then had to hop around trying to get them back on. Now I either wear slip-ons or make sure my laces are loose before I get to security. We're halfway through and there's still so much to cover. If you're picking up useful tips, make sure to like and subscribe for more travel advice. Number 3. Baggage and packing mistakes. Now, let's tackle baggage issues, the source of so many airport headaches. First, let's clear up a major misconception about carry-on bags. Just because your bag fits in the overhead bin doesn't automatically make it a carry-on. Each airline has specific size requirements, and they can force you to check it at the gate if it's too big. I see travelers making the same mistake with personal items. That massive tote bag you love? If it doesn't fit under the seat in front of you, it's not technically a personal item. Airlines are getting stricter about this, especially on full flights. Here's a critical mistake that can cost you both time and money: not weighing your bags at home. I always use a portable luggage scale before heading to the airport. It's much better to rearrange your items at home than to open your suitcase on the airport floor, trying to move things around to meet the weight limit. Speaking of weight, let's discuss how to pack smartly. The heaviest items should go at the bottom of your wheeled suitcase, near the wheels. This helps with balance and makes your bag less likely to tip over. I also recommend packing a lightweight, empty tote bag inside your suitcase. It can be a lifesaver if you need to redistribute weight at the airport. Never, ever pack valuable items in checked bags. This includes electronics, jewelry, important documents, medication, and anything you can't easily replace. Airlines specifically state in their contracts that they're not responsible for valuable items in checked baggage. Keep these in your personal item, where they stay with you at all times. About medication, always pack more than you need for your trip duration and keep it in your personal item. The same goes for essential toiletries and a change of clothes. Think about it. If your checked bag gets delayed, what would you absolutely need for the next 24 hours? Number 4. Check-in and boarding mistakes. The check-in process starts long before you reach the airport. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people waiting until they arrive at the airport to check in. Most airlines open online check-in 24 hours before departure, and there's a good reason to do it early. Airlines often overbook flights, assuming some passengers won't show up. If a flight is overbooked, guess who's most likely to get bumped? The passengers who checked in last. When you check in online, you're essentially securing your spot on that flight. Speaking of airline apps, not downloading them is a missed opportunity. These apps give you real-time updates about gate changes, delays, and boarding times. They also often have terminal maps, which can be invaluable when you're trying to find your way around an unfamiliar airport. The boarding process itself is another area where I see frequent mistakes. The biggest one? Crowding the gate area before your group is called. This just creates confusion and slows down the entire boarding process. Most airlines now have numbered groups or zones. Stick to yours. Here's something about boarding that many people don't realize. If you have a large carry-on and you're in the last boarding group, you might be forced to check it. Overhead bin space isn't guaranteed. Even if your bag meets carry-on requirements, this is especially true on full flights. When storing your bags, remember there's actually a right way to put them in the overhead bin. Wheels first, on their side. This creates more space for everyone's bags. And please, put your personal item under the seat in front of you, not in the overhead bin. Speaking of rules and regulations, wait until you hear what we've discovered about weird US laws. Our next video covers the top 30 bizarre laws still in effect today, from no ice cream in your back pocket to no sleeping on top of a refrigerator. Yeah, these are real. There you have it, folks. If this video helped you avoid these airport mistakes, hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our upcoming video on bizarre US laws. Until next time, safe travels.